Suddenly he came to his senses and said, At my father's house the servants have plenty to eat. I'll go back home and tell Dad. I've sinned against God and against him. I'll ask him to treat me like a servant. Back home, the father was watching for his son. He was hoping his son would come home. When the father saw his son in the distance, he ran to meet him. The son said, I've sinned against God. And against you. But the father called his servants. Fix the fattest calf for eating.
I don't see her on it.
Meanwhile, the older brother was out in the field. He heard that his younger brother had come home. And there would be a big party to celebrate. The older brother got mad. Look here, he said to his father. All these years I've been slaving away. And you never gave me a feast. But when that little pipsqueak wastes all your money and comes running home, you fix him the fattest feast ever. My son, said the father. We have to celebrate and rejoice. Because your brother was dead. But now he's found. And that's the story Jesus told. About an older brother who got mad. And a younger brother who sinned. And a father who's always watching. To welcome everybody home. Very good. Welcome. If you're here, hopefully you're here for First Reconciliation and First Eucharist. My name is Rosemary Cox. I am the Sacrament Coordinator at St. Peter's Chanel Catholic Church. I also coordinate PSR first and second grade. My background is actually 20 years as a structural engineer, and then I started to have children. I had 4 children and found out that 2 of our children were high-functioning autistic, and so as my husband and I said, one of us needed a job and one of us needed a career. So he got to keep his, and my job now keeps me busier than his career. And it's a wonderful job to have, but one of the things I discovered with my 4 children is that everybody learns in different ways. And so when we talk about getting ready for the Eucharist and for First Reconciliation, we have to keep in mind that we're starting with those young minds. So before we begin, how many are volunteer catechists ready to teach at first? Oh, okay. That's DREs, Catholic school teachers. I know there's a couple in here. Sacrament coordinators. Okay. I'm going to turn this around. One of the things you'll find with me, and hopefully it won't get too bad, but when I start talking for a long period of time, I tend to get a little shrill. So if you just, if it's starting to hurt your ears, just tell me to calm down. Our children come to us with some challenges. The challenges of sacramental catechesis are that we have a wide range of faith formation. Parents bring their children to us with various backgrounds. Some of them have been in Catholic preschool and Catholic school. Some of them, the first time they've walked into religious education is in first grade. Some of them come to us with learning disabilities. So we have a wide range of who we're trying to address. We also have a lot of different parent involvement and expectations. When your children were baptized, if they were baptized as infants, really, 99% of that was you and 1% was the little baby. And when we get to confirmation, the goal is that the 1% now is you and the 99% is that person preparing for confirmation. For First Reconciliation and First Communion, it's truly a 50-50 combination. Parents really do need to be there. And this is something that has grown. We've had a lot of religious education realize that the parents really need to have more than just an involvement of dropping the kids off. And I'm sure that many of your churches have some adult faith formation for parents during the same year that the children are going through their sacramental preparation. Ideally, our role as catechists is to support the parents. This sometimes becomes a challenge because there is a contingent of parents that relies heavily on the catechists, the religious education teachers in the schools. And if you've taught this before or you're familiar with this, sometimes you do get the comments, it's about 3 weeks before First Reconciliation, and somebody will come to you and say, well, he doesn't seem to know the act of contrition. Have they been teaching that? And you kind of have to say, well, in your orientation packet in September, you got a copy of the prayer, and it would be great if you could do that with him at home. There's no reason that you can't bring your faith home, and this is something that some parents kind of need to warm up to. So hopefully some of the things I talked to you about today are things that aren't just something that you're going to do in your hour or hour and 15-minute session with your children, but they're things that can be brought home and lived at home so that the family can come into the sacramental year as well. The other challenge that we have is we're teaching complex concepts at a relatively early age. I always laugh because I look at a spelling book for a second grader and then I look at the words we use for sacraments, which are reconciliation, transubstantiation, absolution. All these words are huge. So if the words are huge, sometimes the concepts are huge. So some of the challenging concepts that we have are forgiveness from God through a priest, distinguishing between mistakes, accidents, and sins, justification for wrongdoing, and we'll get into that a little bit more when we get into reconciliation, consecration, transubstantiation, real presence. These are all things that this year really is the first year we talk about this. And for some of us, these are still challenging concepts. My husband was not a cradle Catholic. He did convert. And quite honestly, he probably has a better, deep understanding of real presence than I do. Everybody comes to their understanding of their faith at different stages. But I like to say it's a little bit like math. In first and second grade, when you do fractions, you learn about the pizza pie. And they divide it into 4 sections. And you can learn that there's 1/4 and you can learn that 1/4 plus 1/4 is 2/4, and a little later on in your life, you're going to learn that 2/4 is really a half. And then you're also going to learn that if you take 1/2 and add it to 1/3, you can't just say it's 1/6. All this stuff takes time. So our goal is not to have a child that is fully formed in catechesis, because quite honestly, if you haven't heard it yet, you're going to hear it now. You never graduate from religious education. All these concepts are things that we hope to flower in the children, to grow and bloom. It's not something that we want to sit there and say, well, I just don't think they're ready. Well, sometimes, you know, we're not ready. So I do a lot of hands-on catechesis. I incorporate, like I said, a lot of multiple learning styles. Children are able to recall the lesson because it means something to them. So the first thing we're going to talk about is first reconciliation. And it should be viewed as a journey. It's the journey and the sacrament. If all we focus on is the final stages of the sacrament, sitting down and handing a child an examination of conscience and saying, okay, let's make your list of things you did wrong, and now we're going to practice going into the confessional or face-to-face, we've kind of lost that learning process. We also try very hard to move away from the word first. When we focus on this is your first reconciliation, sometimes it's their only reconciliation before confirmation. What we're trying to instill in them is the process. And that's what the journey is about. The journey is about, this is tiny. The journey is about a choice and the consequence of that choice. And if the choice happened to be a wrong choice, the awareness of that wrongdoing, the asking of forgiveness, penance, receiving forgiveness, and forgiving others. What is very interesting about this is this happens every day for every one of us. And one of the strongest things I like to explain to people is a lot of times these children will start to feel like they're the only ones doing this because we're teaching them about this. And we always use examples of a child sinning. Sometimes you need to use the example of you. And sometimes that's hard to do. I had an instance once where I was talking to our kids, getting them ready for first reconciliation. And they kept coming up, you know, the teachers, I would hear the teachers talk, I would hear their parents talk, and they would all talk about these wonderful examples of these stories of a boy or a girl sinning against another boy or a girl. And I thought, why is there not an adult sinning? These children are getting the impression that the only people that sin are children, and then I guess you reach a magical age, and again, like I say, the justification of wrongdoing is okay when you're an adult. So once I told the story, and this was a true story, like I said, I was an engineer in my previous life, and so I am struggling with the fact that I have 4 children that did not get the math gene at all, But I also, you know, like every other adult, get stressed, and I have my little methods of relaxation. And I told the kids that one day there was a show I like to watch on TV. I can't even remember what it is now, which tells you how bad this really was. But I really wanted to watch this show that night, so I had everything planned out. Dinner was made, etc., and I made sure that they were all set, and they didn't have to worry about it, and I could shut my door up in my bedroom where I had a TV, and I would be alone in my little world then from 8 to 10. And of course, my one son comes up, and he's struggling with his math, and I'm looking at the clock, and it's now 7:55, and I'm thinking this is all going to blow up in my face, which it did, because I got so frustrated because to me, what was an absolutely simple concept, he was not gay. And of course, my reaction was not a very patient one. And I even told the kids, I said, and what I said to my child was, how can you be so stupid? And these kids looked at me, and I said, as soon as I said it, I knew I did something wrong. I knew I had to fix it. And so these children started to realize, okay, this isn't just about me, this is about a bigger picture. Now, what is very funny about this is that if they have older siblings, the older siblings have no problem telling these little guys when they are sinning. That is the other thing that we've discovered with like 4th and 5th graders. They'll tell their little 2nd grade brothers and sisters everything that they're doing wrong. You know, so we like to talk about the journey as an ongoing thing that happens every single day. So we can explore the whole journey. What did we just do? We told the story of the prodigal son. How did we make it real and fun for them? We told a little story and we had a little cute little funny things in there. But we can go back to that story. They're going to remember when the brother called the other brother a pipsqueak. They're going to remember the wild party. Okay? They're going to remember those things, and you can start tying those together to say, okay, in the prodigal son, what was the choice? What was the consequence? How did that person, the younger brother, become aware of his wrongdoing? So you can walk them through that whole process. Now, there are different ways to do this. Like I said, we did an echo pantomime. You have to remember, like you just had lunch. It was a little warm on the walk. You came over and sat down, and it's very easy to fall asleep. You're not getting the kids at their prime learning moment. Some of you teach on Sunday mornings. Some of you teach on Sunday mornings after the donut social. Okay? Some of you teach in the afternoons after they've been at school and come home and had a snack and realize that half of the neighborhood's out playing baseball and they're going to religion class. So know your audience. If you need to move around, there are a tremendous amount of echo pantomimes, and I'll talk about some of the resources in a minute. The Catechist magazine usually publishes echo pantomimes for a huge number of things, not just sacramental concepts, but saint days, 10 commandments. There's a woman who writes them. They're fabulous. They're a great way, especially with a real active class, to get them to understand the story. There's draw and tell, where you kind of do the same thing as the echo pantomime, but the kids draw along while you're telling the story. One thing that I think is great, if you're fortunate to have the kids in Catholic school, because this takes a little bit of time, rewrite the story in real life. I had a group of older children who we were preparing for the sacraments, and we had them rewrite the prodigal son story as they could write it for their real life. And they came up with this fabulous story that I didn't even think of. Does anybody here have high schoolers that know what grade recovery is now? Okay, there's a new thing at the school, and I'm not saying it's bad, because trust me, I'm not working with, the kids who are getting the 2400s on the SATs. Grade recovery is a policy now where, let's say you're in social studies in high school and you get a 75 on your social studies test. Well, if you've done all the homework and you've turned it in, you're allowed to retake parts of the test. You may not get full credit, but your grade will be higher than a 75. This is called grade recovery. So it helps bump up your grade. So they told this wonderful story. They wrote this story. I was amazed. And they wrote this story of a child who knew he had a test the next day, didn't study, played Xbox, went to the test, and bombed it. Another child studied studied, went to the test, did well. Child who bombed it went to the teacher, said, I've done all the homework, I want to retake the test. And this child got a better grade. And the person who got the 85, which was did not qualify for credit recovery, wasn't allowed to retake the test. Okay? A fascinating correlation to the prodigal son. Because here it is, the child who did everything right, was doing well, was not being rewarded, but yet we were giving the child who admittedly went to his teacher and said, I bombed it, I didn't study, I screwed up, but I want another try. And she gave it to him. So that's the prodigal son. The other thing we do, so that's rewriting your own story. The other thing we do because we have about 200 kids going through reconciliation. And the second graders, like I said, we do have them after donuts. We play a hopscotch game. There's 10 laminated words that we tape to the floor like a hopscotch board. Choices, accidents, sins, 10 commandments, conscience, confession, absolution, words are getting harder, penance, act of contrition, sacrament of reconciliation. Why do I do this? We do this at the beginning of the year because before the kids can understand the words, they have to hear the words. So we play hopscotch, and they throw their beanbag, because of course the funny part is the harder words are farther along. So nobody wants to just hop once. They want to hop to the harder words. So they throw that beanbag and they get absolution. And we're like, well, what is absolution? And they're literally, I don't know, I just want to hop to that spot. And we sit there and say, let's just take a little minute. Here's what absolution is. The next person goes. And if you play this for 15 minutes, the words start to sink in. Then we can start working on the meaning. Then we can start working on the process. Rocks and Hearts was a little story. Again, the reason I brought it was because, again, it was in, this is Catechist Magazine from a few years ago. They used rocks and hearts, and they would go to the priest, and they would hand the priest their rock, and the priest would hand them back a little stuffed heart. The reason I brought it, one, it's visual and tactile, but the other thing is you have to realize your audience. I have 250 children. Where was I going to come up with 250 rocks and 250 stuffed hearts? It's a great idea, and I love the idea, so we changed it. We used stickers and something else. Stickers and twigs or something. Something that was easy for me to get a lot of. So sometimes you see an idea, don't give up on the idea if you like the concept. Figure out how it's going to work for you.
So in other words, the rocks and the hearts?
The rocks represented things that they did wrong, and they would when they were in the class, in this particular example, the class was small enough where they could go to see the priest, okay, or the deacon. And so, you give away your rock and you get back a heart. You get back something soft and comfortable and loving. You gave away something that was hard and uncomfortable. In our case, we are not fortunate enough to have deacons or priests available to us on Sunday because of the masses and things like that. So we just use parent helpers. And that's the other thing. If you can use the parents, please do use the parents. So that's kind of the whole journey. But we also have to explore parts of the journey. We have to explore how we make choices and realizing consequences. One of the things that we have is this is just 2 pieces of poster board with a whole bunch of squares, and it's all laminated. And it just looks like a board game, and every now and then it has the word choices in the box. And so the kids, of course, they love to play board games, so you start that, and you roll the dice, and you move your little people along. And then when it says choices, you pick up one of these choices cards, and it says, there was a new girl at school and everyone is making fun of her. I wanted to be part of the group, so I made fun of her too. Is that okay? And you talk. And you discuss. It's not, you know, and all of a sudden, this situation then becomes somebody saying, well, you know, at my school, what happened was this. And so these kids can start to realize that you know, they're making choices all the time. And how do we make the right choice? Now, one of the things that I find very interesting about the games, though, is that there's knowledge and there's action. I have found that almost every 7-year-old knows exactly what to say. I did this little thing at VBS, which was, I don't know, something that the kids didn't really get at the time. But we had this little discussion during one of the Bible study parts of VBS about sharing. And, you know, I said, it's kind of like when we go out for freezer pops, because we would have the freezer pops at VBS. And I said, what's everybody's favorite flavor? And then, you know, cherry was like the big favorite flavor. And I said, well, what would happen if we only had like 3 cherry freezer pops and all the rest were lime? And of course, these little kids, I would give my cherry freezer pop to my friend. Okay, so that day we did. We had 3 cherry freezer pops and the rest were lime. And it's amazing when you have to take that knowledge and put it into action. The kids do know. Well, let's face it, we all know the right thing to do. Okay? We all know we're not supposed to walk faster than that lady walking into Publix. Okay? Because you know she's going straight to the deli counter and she's got a list. Okay? We know that. Putting our good intentions into action is hard for everybody. Our 7-year-old, 7, the beginning of the age of reason. Those are little things. We did the game where the last shall be first and the first shall be last. I told the kids we had this wonderful, wonderful team helper. He is at college now. But I put Peter at the end of the hall and I said, okay, the game is to see who can get the beanbag closest to Peter, you know. And of course, everybody's like, ooh, let me go first, let me go first, let me go first. So we did the thing, and I said, well, that was the goal of the game, but the winner of the game is this little boy who offered to go last. I said, while we were trying to get close to Peter, the person who really won this game was the person who let everybody else have a chance first. At least 4 of these kids, all session long. But wait a second, we were closer to Peter than that guy. And I kept thinking, okay, we got it. We got to latch on to this concept. So a lot of things with these kids, they know what the right thing to do is. But like us, they're learning how to do the right thing and be confident and use those gifts of the Holy Spirit to do it. Awareness of wrongdoing. Examination of conscience. It's hard enough for me to say those words, let alone explain to a 7-year-old. Examination of conscience. Okay, one of the things that we do at St. Peter Chanel is we make these little prayer corners. The first thing we make at the beginning of the year is we take everybody's name and we take these little votives and we, in gold paint pen, write their little name on it, and we write First Reconciliation on the back. Now, our pastor has been very gracious, and the kids decorate these with stars, hearts, and crosses. We have a whole prayer service around stars, hearts, and crosses, and how those symbols help guide us, okay? So the kids make their own candle. Father Peter lets us take all of the votive candles out of the church, the red ones and the blue ones and the whatever, and all these go inside the church and the chapel. So that the 2 months before reconciliation, All the children's names are in the church on the votive stands. It brings, first of all, this child a sense of community in that church. Because one of the things I do like to do, we have beautiful traditions in the Catholic faith. Prayer cards, stained glass windows, triptychs, okay? So we let them just color this in. And on the one side, it has the act of contrition. Jesus is the Good Shepherd. Some questions. This is an examination of conscience. This is a good... Did I remember to thank God for all my blessings? Was I careful with other people's things? Did I let the light of the Holy Spirit help guide my choices today? Yes, we can develop a 40-question, 10-commandment examination of conscience. And here's what happens with that. Get all the kids. Okay, everybody, close your eyes. We're going to do an examination of conscience. Did I pray this morning? Did I go to Mass this Sunday? And they start nodding before you start asking. Okay? Because first of all, they're 7. They don't want to do anything wrong. They don't want to think that they did anything wrong. But going through 40 questions, let's get them just used to looking at their lives. Yes, the 10 Commandments are very important, and we will get there. Pizza pie, higher level fractions. Okay? So we make these, and as I say, it's not a party without a favor. I made some for you to take home. Feel free to copy. Oh, and the other thing, nothing I'm telling you now is original to me. Nothing. Okay? And I think on some of them, I apologize, we had a little glitch in the printing, but on some of them, on the back, there are the reconciliation scriptures. So if a child has this at home, remember I said bringing it home? If a child has this at home and the parent's dusting their room, there's the woman at the well. The mother looks at that and goes, oh, the woman at the well. Teaches us how to reunite with our community through forgiveness. Maybe I'll stop and take a look at that. So they take these home and it helps them to prepare for reconciliation. It's also something that's not just used for first reconciliation. It can be used when they go back the next year, et cetera, et cetera. Learning forgiveness and practicing penance. I saw this in a video. I thought it was very, like I said, my children have always had a very difficult time talking. I know, hard to believe it. But they did. They had a very, very difficult time talking. And a lot of 7-year-olds, like I said, they're going to realize they start to do something wrong. Okay? I'm sorry, you're forgiven. The kids color these, they decorate them. These I just put in clip art, but they can write their own. Okay? And they take them home. And the goal of this is, when they have done something, they put the I'm sorry somewhere in the house, and they put the you're forgiven somewhere in the house. And if they make a bad choice, and they know they did it, but they just don't know how to start the process with you, the parent, they go find the I'm sorry card, and they come up to you, and you can say, you're sorry. What are you sorry for? Well, and then it starts. Then it becomes the story. Okay? And you talk. You talk about what happened. You tell them that you always love them. You tell them they're forgiven. And you go get the You Are Forgiven card, and you hand it back to your child. It starts the process. It's a way to get them to realize that they can talk about the things that they did wrong, that it's okay, that just like Jesus the Good Shepherd, you are going to welcome them home. So that's learning forgiveness and kindness. Oh, that's what's hysterical was that I did this at one of the meetings, and there was a person who said to me, "Can I have a set for my husband and I?" Okay, I don't know if I have enough. And the other thing that we do with these to help the parents, reconciliation words are on the back of one to help them reinforce that with their kids. The act of contrition's on the other one. Share with your neighbor. I thought I had more. Okay. Okay, we're going to do this real quick. Mock reconciliations. If you're teaching, mock reconciliations as a class are very good. Mock reconciliations one-on-one are very effective. Mock reconciliations where you invite the parents to help and act as the pretend priests are a great eye-opener. The parents are more than willing to do anything for their kids, but they'll come and they'll say, "I might need a little cheat sheet." You're like, "Here you go. Here you go." And they really, it's amazing when we have the parents come and help and be pretend priests, how much that whole sense of reconciliation permeates through the community and also when those families go home. Prayers. Oh dear. Memorization versus meaning. I want you to repeat after me. 25, 36, 49, 64, 81. Okay, let's try it again. 25, 36, 49, 64, 81. 25, 36, 49, 64, 81. What do they mean? Very good. We have some math mates in here. That's good. You memorized it, though, very quickly. Kids can memorize anything. It's the meaning that we got to get to. Okay? This is the act of contrition in a whole bunch of prayer strips. When the kids come into class and they're, poking at each other and they're doing this, I hand them a set of these and I say, put this in order. And they work on that and they get used to putting it in order and then we say it together. Okay? Then, pick one. You can see it. What does it say? In choosing to do wrong. What does that mean, in choosing to do wrong? So it's not just taking these and putting them in order. It's then taking them every now and then, strip by strip, and saying, what does this part of the prayer mean? So we have made these for the act of contrition, the Hail Mary, the Our Father, the Glory Be, for second grade. Because that way, the Our Father, the Hail Mary, the act of contrition, they're all reconciliation oriented when you're in second grade. The other thing we do, and hopefully I have enough of these, again, one of the beautiful Catholic traditions we have are holy cards. Let the kids make their own. If you have any kind of desktop publishing skills, and I don't, this is just a piece of clip art with a prayer on it. I just took border art and I stuck it on the back. And it looks like one of those prayer cards you get at Ave Maria, except that the little picture part is empty. So you take the prayer, the act of contrition, and you let the kids draw what their concept is. You take the Beatitudes. You take the prayer of St. Francis. So you can come up with a whole set of these cards for all your, put them on a key ring, and have the kids have their own set of prayer cards that mean something to them. Okay, here you go. I don't know what's going on. Okay, moving on. Oh, we got to the end of reconciliation. Yay. First Eucharist, it's a sacramental life. One of the things that really needs to happen is the sense of community. Okay? You do need to explore the baptism. Like I said, some of these children are coming back to religious education for the first time in first grade. Some of these children, believe it or not, have not been to Mass because there is a concept or a thought that you really don't need to go to Mass until you've made your first communion. That's when you start going regularly. Okay? So you bring them back by exploring baptism. You know, this is your community. This is your faith community. Some of the churches, and this is actually a wonderful thing, some of the churches have an enrollment or a commitment ceremony with the parents. They'll have something simple, a little cross or something. And, you know, the parents and the children get up at a certain Mass or they stand up and there's a prayer said. And these children sense that they are part of a bigger community. And it's an event, and yes, it's a carrot for the parents, because when you say, okay, your child is going to have a commitment ceremony at the Mass, they'll come. When you just have to get up and go to Mass, maybe not. But it gets them in the door, and they start to get it all put together. Christian symbols in the everyday, what that means is some of the things that the kids will do this year. Many churches make banners, which actually are a wonderful way for the children to start to realize that there are Christian symbols all around them all day. So it helps them to visualize that Christ in the Holy Spirit is with them every day. The sacramental meal, many people make the bread, and that's a very important thing to do, to realize that Jesus took the simplest of foods, and this is how he is truly, truly present to us when that bread is changed into the body of Christ. He made it real for us. He didn't take this fancy food. He took flour and water. And salt and all the other things. Mass is the ultimate hands-on activity for preparing for the Eucharist. We are blessed in our church. We have a great middle school program. And one of the things that our middle schoolers do is they present this session to our second graders. It's called the Passover to Eucharist Drama. And what they do, we don't do a full Seder meal, but we talk about the traditions of the Seder meal. And there's a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful article. I don't have it with me. It's from Catholic Update, from AmericanCatholic.org, on how the Passover presupposed the Eucharist. All the symbols of the Passover that then came into fruition in the Eucharist. How the mother lights the candles and Mary gave us Jesus. Okay? There are symbols to the 4 cups, and the response that the family gives when they drink the 4 cups, we actually use as the priest is preparing the gifts. So, our wonderful 6th graders present the Passover, the children sample those meals, then they present the Last Supper, and then they present the altar as it is today. So those children realize that this isn't just something that was thought up. This came from our salvation history. Mass, why do we go? Thank you, pleased, I'm sorry, and I love you. Why do we go to Mass? To say thank you, to ask for help, to say I'm sorry, and to love others. Please, thank you. you, I'm sorry. I love you. One of the things that we give our families, because it's hard, like I said, 4 kids, 2 special needs. Who knows who the VeggieTales are? Okay? For about 7 to 8 years, Bob and Larry came to Mass with us. Okay? And it was the Bob where if you hit it, he would say something. Okay? So that was a joy. But we have to give kids a reason to go. Besides, you have to go. We have to give parents a reason to go. We have soccer all day Sunday. The only time we have for Mass is Saturday. And oops, I'm still mowing the lawn. I guess we're going to have to take a pass. One of the things that we developed with our kids, it's a flip book. Who doesn't love flip books? Okay? Our book of blessings. You leave it on somewhere in the kitchen. Okay? Our book of blessings. We give thanks to God for it. When something great happens in your house that day, my child of God is 75. Yes. Okay? You write it in the book of blessings. Okay? If you need help, you flip the book over to our family prayers and you put, we ask God to help us with. On Saturday afternoon when you're eating your lunch, you pull this out. That's why you leave it in the kitchen. And you read this and you realize, okay, I really, really do we need to go to Mass. We need to take our book to Mass and we need to, as a family, thank God and we need to ask Him for help. There is never a time I haven't struggled with going to Mass that when it's over, I'm so glad I went. And it may not be the whole Mass. It may be one line of the responsorial psalm. But I'm glad I went. But it's hard. And I know it's hard. 2 other things we do. What's it all about? We, again, working with the older children to bring it home to the family. We have the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders present the Mass to the little kids. There was a fabulous book written by Liturgical Training Publications last year, What's New About the Mass, and it came with a teacher manual. And it was all about the Revised Roman Missal, but even more so, it really, really, in great age-appropriate language, told everybody about the meaning of the Mass. If you can get your hands on this book, please do. I didn't bring any with me today, but it's called What's New About the Mass. They're not publishing it anymore because it was for the Revised Roman Missal. But even if you can get a couple copies of it, I thought it was a fabulous way. We used it with the 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders so that they would start to know about the Mass and they could present it to the kids. I don't have a copy on my computer, but we made up a game called Who Wants to Be the Pope? Okay? And it walked everybody through Mass from the time you genuflect. What do you do before you get in your pew? And there were all these little ABC questions. You know, who are we genuflecting to? Where is Jesus? The part of the Mass where we read the Gospel is called the what? Okay? And we made the cute little cards. Ask your class, phone a friend, which was usually Father Peter if he came to play the game with us. Or we also did 50-50. And so they did this as a class, but the great thing about this was we kind of incorporated, instead of money, you climbed from being the first communicant to an altar server, to a teen helper, to a PSR teacher. We climbed the community of our church all the way up to the Pope. So the kids got to see the roles. Here's what's really sad. We get to nun. What's a nun? And I thought, oh dear. So we took a little time explaining what a nun does. And they know these other guys with the sashes. Do they know they're called deacons? What does a deacon do? So this game usually took us at least 2 classes to play. And if you want my copy, I'm more than happy to share my copy. It's, like I say, we're not talking great theology, folks. We're just talking looking at the Mass. Oh. Do I have enough time, Carl?
Yeah, it's still
Okay. The Eucharist itself. The words and the actions. The C word and the T word. C being consecration, T being transubstantiation. Consecration is a little bit easier. We can say, we can explain what it is. Transubstantiation is hard enough to say. One of the things we did was we took big pieces of paper and laminated each letter, and kind of like the prayers, we let the kids play around with, what do you think, there's a lot of letters in there, so it was like, put these letters together somehow. How many words can you make out of this, and then let's make the big word of transubstantiation. But what we did was when we did the letters, we colored them differently. T-R-A-N-S was one color, or T-R-A-N. And then S-U-B-S-T-I-A was another color. The last T-I-O-N was the third color. Because tran means change. The middle means substance. And the shun at the end, T-I-O-N, is an action. The action of changing the substance. When the kids see it in colored letters broken up like that, they will be able to, I shouldn't say understand transubstantiation. They will be able to appreciate the word, to be familiar and comfortable with the word, and to grow into that beautiful, beautiful time where you are kneeling at the Eucharistic prayer and you either hear the bells or you see the bell and you realize, oh my goodness, he's right here. And that's in the end what it really is all about. He's right here. Real present. And of course there's bingo. You have to teach him how to play bingo. One of the great traditions of our faith. There's picture bingo, there's word bingo. It's a great way for the kids to start talking and learning about different parts of the Eucharist in kind of a fun way. One of the ways we have done real presence, and I don't have it with me, and I'm glad I don't because I can't do it. My son usually has to come to this lesson with me. Who's seen a transformer? Okay? If you take a transformer is really a superhero, but it looks like a car. And it's a great way to show the kids that it's not, okay, for all of the true theologians out there, I understand, it's not an exactly perfect way to explain it, but for a 7-year-old, it's right where they need to be. It looks like a car, but it's not. It looks like bread, but it's not. And the fun part of how to receive communion. It is harder than it looks the first time around. And you get the gulp, and it's a challenge because the other thing that we have to realize is that families have traditions. And we do have to know how to teach the children to receive communion both on the hand and on the tongue. So we have to go through that. And it's a great time to do it one-on-one. It's also, you got to have them practice the line. Amazingly enough, they need to practice the line. And they need to understand how to do this, how it's a two-step movement, how not to walk away from the altar like this. how not to nibble. How not to gulp. I hope this person isn't in this crowd today. There was a person, I was a Eucharistic minister, and you know, when you're holding the cup and you realize, will you have enough for the rest of the congregation that's coming down the aisle? And I thought, okay, I'm good, I'm doing well. And this couple came up, and the man came up, and 2 gulps, and it was gone. It was kind of like, oh, I was, because the person behind him, I mean, okay. Jesus, he's here. So,
I didn't touch it. I didn't mean
we have to tell the
I'll
kids.
take the picture.
Yes, and yes, the 7-year-olds know that, okay, it's the blood of Christ, okay? It is the blood of Christ. You have to, though, also know that they're confident in themselves. They can handle the cup, okay? But you want them to practice that because those cups can sometimes be heavy, okay? And it's a surprise. And so you want them to practice that. I would do it in your classrooms. I would also do it in, like, if you have a sacrament workshop or something more communal. It's a good time to do it then because they really get a good sense of the line, okay? When they do it one-on-one, they still don't get a sense of the line. And it's amazing how many times they can walk up and they do it for a blessing, and they're so excited about communion that at the end, they're still standing there. And they need to know, like, if your church does the blessing, if they're younger, there is a time that they have to realize they don't do that anymore. And remember the Revised Roman Missal? And how long it took some of us, and is still taking some of us, to say the right words? Well, for years, these children have been approaching the altar like this. And more than once, we've had somebody at the end come up to Father, who's now standing in the narthex greeting people. She was supposed to go to communion, but she forgot to not do this. Okay? And so we go back into the church. We open the tabernacle. I mean, it's all good. But they have to start to learn that process. So it's good to practice. Prayers after communion. We're all so excited about the big deal, and we forget at the end there's still stuff going on. Talk to them with the 5-finger prayer. If you've done the 5-finger prayer, it's leaders. No, is it tall man's leaders? Ringman. The only one I remember is because it's a visual. Your ring finger is your weakest finger. So when you get to your ring finger, you're supposed to pray for the weak. And the last finger, your pinky, that's when you get to pray for you because it's the farthest away. It's all online. My resources, like I say, Catechist Magazine, Religion Teacher Journals Magazine. There is a fabulous article in Religion Teachers Journal Magazine about children and reconciliation. Big book of Catholic customs and traditions, Catholic traditions for the home and the classroom. That's where I get a lot of my ideas.
Can you go back to back issues? Or?
Yes, you can go to back issues, especially if you join their website, login kind of stuff. And now most of the curriculums have very, very good websites. Loyola has one. RCL Benziger has one. Stadler has one. I'm running and gunning, but I thank you. I hope you had a good time. I hope you